So, it is now 2018. What do you have planned? And what was your highlight of 2017? There you go. Throw it in there. 2 things. Boom. Go.
So, my highlight of 2017, and I know you think you know what I'm going to say.
I don't know. You surprise me sometimes.
Yeah, because it's totally Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes, I thought as much. I mean, that was definitely a highlight.
Yeah, of course.
You can have multiple highlights. So that's why I'm not going... there was a small thing called getting married to me, maybe. That was like a highlight, but no, that's a fair one.
Do you really call that a highlight or more?
Is there such thing as a low light?
there is, but no, I wouldn't say that was a low
Oh
light.
my goodness.
No, definitely highlight, of course, be getting married to you and having you here, but
Yeah.
on the other hand, I almost did a list of, instead of doing like video games, a list for video games and a list for movies, I almost did a list of just things I enjoyed in 2017.
Yeah.
And I was even going to make a joke in there about how, I didn't feel like getting married to you deserved its own entry on the list, but I will say it here and now, yes, that was the highlight of 2017.
Yeah.
I know 2016 really sucked for a lot of people, but that was the year I met you and we started dating, so,
Good times.
good times. And I'm sorry, that's not actually true. I met you in 2015. But we started dating in 2016. So, and then 2017 sucked for a lot of people and a lot of stuff going on. But my highlight, was getting married to you. And considering some of the things that have happened in my personal life this year, I really think you being here, like actually physically here, has been a huge boon.
Oh, and we're gushing straight at the beginning of the second episode.
But seriously, let's talk about Spider-Man Homecoming for a second.
That was Tom Holland. Bless his cotton socks. He's just lovely, and it was really enjoyable. So I can definitely understand why that would be a highlight. A highlight, as I say.
So what was yours? What was yours?
My highlight?
Yeah. And you can't say getting married because I already said that.
Damn it.
Yeah, you let me steal the easy one.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I guess it would have been on the same vein as in, coming over here and being with you, that kind of
cop out.
Yeah. That kind of gushiness of
I just want to point out, this is kind of a bit, like, I really do like Spider-Man Homecoming. I don't think it was like the best movie of the year. Keeping with that trend, I'm just curious. So I know we haven't really done like, we've kind of discussed it in groups and with ourselves, but what would you say is the game that you really enjoyed playing the most in 2017? Kind of newer game. What would you say is the game you enjoyed playing the most?
I ended up, now, whether I enjoyed it the most, I can't really say because I didn't play too many newer games. Horizon I enjoyed, but the game that I probably went back to the most and replayed was Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, no, I'd put that up there.
Like, you got me that at the big, like, when it released as a surprise, and it was kind of like I think it was anniversary.
So that was your anniversary gift, and I got you the Uncharted
Nathan Drake collection for Valentine's Day. Yeah, but yeah, I kept going, back to it and replaying it, and then obviously like throughout the year the DLC, different ones were released and newer ones and all that kind of stuff. So, and I just end up replaying it and actually like speedrunning it as well. Yeah. So.
For me, it was Mario Odyssey. Like, and I feel like that's almost a cop-out because they don't really release Mario games that are absolutely horrible. And some people were kind of talking about that. It's like, oh, well, it's more Mario. But no, this is really good Mario.
Right.
I had a lot of fun with that one. And I don't know. It's just, that's one I know I'm going to keep playing.
Yeah.
And that brings us to 2018. Like, is there a game that you really feel like you're going to be playing a lot in 2018, or something that you're really looking forward to?
I mean, there's a lot of fantastic games that are going to be coming out in the next year or so. I'm not 100% sure when, but things like Red Dead Redemption 2,
sure,
The Last of Us 2, which I think is going to be more of the latter of 2019 or beginning of 2019.
I was about to say, I think that one's 2019, but don't quote me.
It just like stuff like that. I haven't really looked too much into what maybe due out just in case, there's mishaps or there's like delays and stuff, because we know that there's been a lot of those recently with some things, Resident Evil 2. I wanted to talk about live streaming and the different platforms and how, live streaming can affect, couples and families and the sort of pros and cons, if you like, from our perspectives, because I live stream a hell of a lot more.
I was about to say, this is a subject you know a lot about, so I'm just going to let you talk. I'll go grab like a snack. We have cheesecake in the fridge.
Oh yeah, we do. You can go and like do the dishes or something, and then I'll cook dinner afterwards. It's like I won't go that far. Well, no, but even so, even though it's more, I guess you could say, quote unquote, I'm doing the bunny ears, my field, you still live stream, no?
I do, yeah. I live stream and I dabble in a lot of things for various reasons. So I do have some insights on this, but of course, you would do it way more than I do. You have a larger audience than I do, and you're by far more consistent. Even though I know sometimes you're about to say, I know what you're about to say. Sometimes it's very hard to be consistent, but you're far more consistent on actually doing it. Like there's a lot of times where I'll think I could live stream tonight, but I have these 2 articles to work on, or I wanted to get through this game so I could talk about it, or just random people will pull me away to play Friday the 13th or something like that. Who knows?
Daria Popka. Just naming a few names.
Right.
Check out their channels. There is that, but I still want your perspective from a, I guess, non-streamer point of view, because I think there are a lot of things that affect both sides of the spectrum.
Sure.
So just to give you sort of a brief idea and in history of live streaming, if you're not aware already, there are many different platforms that you can do these live broadcasts, which are predominantly gaming focused. But originally, what I remember was Justin TV.
Justin TV.
Yeah. So that was created back in 2007, and it was just a platform that was free where people could broadcast live video content. And it was, it was pretty much everything and things that they probably shouldn't have broadcasted.
Like wrestling. I used to watch a ton of wrestling content. I'm going to sell myself out here. Before the network. Once the WWE network came to be a thing, I signed up pretty quick after it launched. Not right away, but once I knew it was stable and they were delivering on some of the stuff they were promising, I signed up because to me they charge a modest price to be able to get all the pay-per-views and go out back and be able to watch all these pay-per-views and now adding older episodes of Raw and SmackDown, and we're getting Thunder soon. I don't know if anybody remembers Thunder. It was the WCW version of SmackDown.
Oh,
it was their B show.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
But the reason I actually found Justin TV was at the time I was huge into World of Warcraft, and people would play, and still, but at the time, people would play World of Warcraft and would do like the new raids or do harder content that I hadn't seen yet or been to yet.
Yeah.
And so I would go to Justin TV and watch that, and there tons of stuff. You could find everything on there. But
yeah, well, that's the thing, you see, because when Justin TV came about and started increasing in popularity, so did the gaming category. And that's when they decided to branch off in 2011, and that's when Twitch, was basically born.
Right.
And then it just increased and increased, and Justin TV was kind of like on the back burner a little bit more. And I think, the founders were like, hey, this is a thing, people are enjoying this. So in 2014, that's when they decided to actually shift their focus just on twitch.tv.
Right.
Which before it was branded as Twitch Interactive, I think, before it became twitch.tv. And then, so after Justin TV disbanded, they just solely focused on Twitch.
Since I made you do all the research for this episode, does Twitch, the name, come from like Twitch Gaming, or is it from something else? Do you know?
That's a good question.
When you catch the person who was supposed to do the research not doing their job.
I hate you. I hate everything you stand for.
Do
you know?
I have always assumed it was from Twitch gaming, because that was a popular term at the time. The other idea is like people who Twitch with television is people who like change channels constantly, and that could be the other form of it. Because you're twitching through channels, you keep switching.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. That's a brief history. Now there are now various sites that you can live stream or broadcast your gaming live. Don't look at me like that. He did that on purpose, and it was kind of my fault. I should have done a little bit more, which that makes sense. Twitching, but channel flicking, channel hopping, like Gogglebox. Anyway,
I'm sorry. What was that?
Gogglebox. It's a program in the UK, and it's where they like record people, families watching TV.
I spelled that. Goggle?
Goggle.
Like a pair of goggles.
Yeah,
okay.
Goggle
okay.
and then box. But it's like one word.
We'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, anyway. So you've obviously got Twitch, as we've mentioned, twitch.tv. You now have YouTube Gaming. Mm-hmm. There's Hitbox, which I think is called something else now.
That might be true. I have used Hitbox, and was the other one, was it like Blip or whatever that was for a little while doing streaming?
Bleep, 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 blop, bloop. I don't know about that one, but I know that Hitbox has changed its name, and I always forget the name. Again, researcher at the best. And there is also Mixer, which was formerly the Microsoft one, and that was called something else as well.
Yeah, that was, because it being called Mixer is pretty new.
Yeah, that was only a recent change. But those are your main ones. Now, the two top dogs, I would say, is Twitch and YouTube Gaming.
Oh, of course.
Definitely. So what I really want to know is the negatives and positives and how it affects people around you. So you, as my husband, like you see me, go through like, oh, what am I going to stream or what am I going to play? And, time differences and stuff like that when we had that issue, how much time it takes into like our personal time. Because I would stream for like 8 hours.
Oh yeah.
Most nights that I did stream.
I think if you didn't start streaming, because of my work schedule, you really can't start streaming until later in the evening.
Right.
And our social schedule. And I think honestly, you would stream for longer than you do now if that wasn't the case. Because like you said, when we weren't living together, you would stream for 8 to 10 hours on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
And the truth is that was never a huge problem, except when I had to get up and go to work or whatever, because then there was no time with us alone. When I'd go to bed, you'd be starting your stream.
Right.
And then I would wake up and have to get ready for work or go do something, and you'd be getting ready for bed,
Yeah.
So there was just no time. And now that we live in the same place and it's more being on the same time zone, it's not as big of a deal. It doesn't interfere quite as much. We can arrange things a lot better. And you are also streaming for shorter periods of time, just because usually by the time you end your stream, it's like 5 a.m.
Right, which, I mean, for us, that's kind of like a normal time when we'd be winding down and going to bed, which, especially right now because I have the free time because I'm not able to work at the moment. And now that we have separate rooms, I have a little bit more freedom in that sense. But have there ever been times where I've been like, oh, I'm going to stream, and you're like, that's cool, like you do that, but I kind of wanted to do this with you?
I think it's the other way around, actually. So going back to what you just said, when we were in a one-room apartment, definitely there were times where I would be like, oh, I was going to jump on and play Friday the 13th, or I was going to watch this program I need to watch for work, especially when I was doing a lot of wrestling writing. I'd have hours and hours every week of wrestling I would need to watch. And I still watch all that, but now I can do it on my time, whereas back then I was having to get it done right then. And so you would want to stream, and I'd be like, well, this is really inconvenient for me right now because I need to do this. And I know a lot of people are going to say like, oh, just, headphones or a thing. But that doesn't always work. Some situations that doesn't work every time. Especially when I'm writing, I get really bad headaches because of my eyes and stuff like that. And so wearing a headset, at that point can be...
Yeah, that was really tough. And I think our situation was slightly unique because we were in essentially a studio apartment.
How many times did your viewers be like, what was that in the background?
Yeah,
is there someone with you?
Yeah, it's like, who's that? Who's talking? Yeah, there were a few times, and I would profusely apologise for, background noise and stuff, because I didn't want to be like...
Which was your mistake. I was adding character to the podcast.
Oh, I see. So my stream, me alone, was not enough. So you were just adding...
I was helping add flavor to your stream.
Flavor. I see how it is. I know how you really think about my streams. But no, seriously, we were both trying to compensate and trying to think of the other person. Mm-hmm. I hated that, I wanted to stream and that I would feel like I was kind of restricting you from being able to do that stuff. And I hated saying, could you wear the headset this time so we don't get as much feedback or whatever. And knowing, the headaches you got and stuff, and especially
it's like, could you put on the Git mask this time?
Yeah, it's like, can you put the mask on this time? But I think now, it works a lot better, and we're a lot better at kind of saying, hey, what are you going to do tonight? Oh, I think I might do this. Okay, cool. If you want to do something with me, just say. And we definitely, communication is huge.
And to go back to your previous question, the reason I said that was kind of reverse also is something I think you're probably going to want to bring up, but we'll bounce around for just a second. So there were only a couple of times where I've ever thought where you're like, oh, I'm going to stream, and I thought, oh, okay, well, I thought we could watch the show together, or I thought whatever. That really didn't happen a lot. We have a good form of communication, and we are both willing to work with the other one a lot. Yeah. So we didn't run into that problem much. And if we did, we usually had a good compromise for it.
Right.
I will say there were several times I asked you to go out and be social when, whether you said it or not, I could tell you were thinking, oh, I was going to stay home and stream. Or I want to... Your words were, I want to stay home. I read it as, I want to stay home and stream, or I want to stay home and watch people stream.
Right, yeah. Because again, I'm much more into, the whole streaming experience, both as a consumer and a creator, I guess.
You're into the community. You try to boost other people's streams. A lot of people probably notice you, and I've seen other people do it, but I don't know if I've seen people do it to the level you do, where you have several commands for your bot that actually shout out other individual streamers and stuff like that.
I've noticed it a lot more, but it never used to be a thing. I don't think many people did do it.
A lot of people used to do it at the beginning or the end of their streams. They'd have a wall of text that they would post go check these people out, but you never saw it, or I don't remember seeing it midstream. Now, I've been watching streams for years, back, like I said, since it was Justin TV. I was a big Twitch person. The people that we met and how we got together.
It was through streaming.
Through Twitch, through streaming. And those people I would not have met if I didn't go find random people and chill out in their chat rooms. I knew people from YouTube, and they would recommend others that streamed.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just would be like, oh, I know this person, and they're watching this guy stream. So I'll go see if this person's any good.
Yeah, exactly. It's recommendations, and it is a community, and a big community. There are some do's and don'ts, I guess, or chat etiquette and stuff like that.
I see where you're going.
No pun intended. But I think the other thing as a streamer, because you mentioned that sometimes I would rather stay at home and stream than go out and socialise. Now, one of the things about me and us is you have a very active social life.
Pshaw.
Pshaw. And whereas I'm completely the opposite. And
so one might say homebody.
Yeah, or, I like my man cave and my comfort, and, I like to sit on my computer and socialise in a different way. I don't actually have to interact with people. I can just switch off whenever I want. And I think that's also...
And for mine, you have to put pants on. I understand.
Right, exactly. I have to put clothes on. I have to go out and... But, generally, socialising and going out, for me, it's an anxiety thing, for the most part.
Sure.
And whereas, when you're streaming, it's a completely different social interaction. As I say, you can just switch off at any point if you've had enough of someone. And it's not to say, I don't like the people that I hang out with, whether it's on stream or whether it's in real life. But I think it's just the overall anxiety. There's just something about it where I'm just more comfortable at home and doing things that way. So sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes I can't even stream. I just don't. I just want to shut myself up.
I was about to say, like, you're talking about two different sets of anxieties here, and I know you're very aware of that.
Yeah.
But I understand going out can cause some anxiety, and I also understand there are just times when you kind of want to go see your other friends who are online, or you want to work on your content. You want to work on. For you, you've kind of switched up a lot where you do a lot more streaming and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so for you, that's another avenue of actually building on your content. And I totally understand that. However, there are times I feel I need to pull you out of the apartment.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing. And I'm not saying like I don't want to do it, or I don't think it's a good idea, or I definitely do appreciate the fact that you do, and I think it's healthy to have a social life. And I think it just takes a little time for me to adjust, and sometimes I need a step back because I'm so used to, as I say, the complete opposite life, where I rarely went out. The only time I'd go out was to work, and I would only interact with work colleagues and acquaintances for so many hours a day, and then I'd come home, I'd be like, yeah, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. I don't want to see anyone else.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it is healthy to go out now and then. Granted, there have been times where it's not so much that I wanted to stay at home and stream, but there's been like events.
Oh, sure.
Like marathons and taking part in like charity events.
Yeah, sometimes, going back to what you said earlier, the timing for certain things concerning streaming, it interferes with stuff you want to do in the real world.
Right.
And one of the events you did, you were like, oh, I have to get up and start streaming at like 9 a.m. or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just looked at you confused. I was like, why would you sign up for that?
Yeah, yeah.
But that's because we have a completely different schedule.
Right.
And this was back when we were living in the one-room apartment.
Yeah.
And so I just had to put in earplugs and like try to like block you out while you were streaming.
Right. And I did feel bad, but like it was one of those things that couldn't be helped, but I really wanted to take part in it because it was I think it was the first Biohazard TV charity event that I took part in.
That sounds right.
Because I did my time slot, which was also in the morning, but then I covered somebody else the next day at exactly the same time.
So whoever that was,
thanks.
You kept me up.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's all your fault. But I wanted to do that, but that didn't affect our social side. I think for a lot of streamers though, there are other stresses aside from trying to work around other people and balancing their social life and their work life. And I think when you are at a certain level where your income solely relies on whether you make videos on YouTube or whether you're just a streamer, and if something happens to your main source of income, then what do you do? Because you've basically put all your eggs in one basket. You've got nothing to fall back on. So, I think that is a massive, massive stress, and especially with YouTube and the whole like adpocalypse thing. People are turning to different alternative methods. Like you stream on Twitch, but you stream for your patrons.
Yeah.
Right? So like how do you work that into?
Well, let's back it up. We're unpacking a lot here. So first of all, no one should ever put all their eggs in one basket if possible. And I understand in some situations you can't, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
And I am saying that you should not, with streaming, with YouTube, whatever, unless you have backup sources. Like a lot of your major YouTubers have Patreon support. They have sponsors. Yeah. They have actual companies that are, paying for airtime, for advertisement time, and stuff like that. They have multiple sources of income. So they're never stuck completely with their pants down.
Right.
Now, I say that as someone who is a freelancer in my primary 2 professions. So I understand how that probably sounds, and that's tough, and that is not always an option. But if you can avoid it, avoid it.
Yeah.
So with that being said, and you were talking about, a couple different reasons why that's, a bad, right? But I personally think, this is work. And a lot of people approach this as work, and they treat it with that respect, and they put their time in, and they put a lot of energy and effort, and there are stresses. And I would say, for me, streaming is not super stressful because I don't make any money off streaming.
Right, yeah.
I have a Patreon, and in that, as long as I'm making a certain amount of money on that Patreon, I do a monthly stream once a month. Now, I do stream more than that, but I do a monthly stream where my patrons get to pick the games that I play. Yeah. It's great. I love it because it makes me play new things. It lets people see more games that they want to see.
Yeah, it gets the bang for the buck, basically.
But that money comes through Patreon.
Right.
Yeah, none of that money comes through Twitch. I'm not even a Twitch affiliate yet. I had the opportunity, and unfortunately, due to some things that were going on in life at that time, I did not sign up for it, and so now I got to go through the process all over again.
Right, yeah.
And I'll work on that soon. Yeah.
The achievements and stuff.
All that. But for me, streaming is not as stressful. Like, let's talk about stress. You used to take like 4 hours to get ready for your stream.
I still do.
You've gotten better. At least recently, in the past few weeks, you've gotten to where you've knocked it down to like 2 hours.
Yeah. Yay, achievement unlocked. But that's...
Most of that's just you trying to figure out what game to play.
Yeah, there is that. I'm extremely indecisive, and I also... And again, it goes back to the anxiety thing, because I find it difficult to hit the start streaming button. Yeah. And
you have a lot of anxiety with that, and and I've noticed it. And you and I have had a lot of conversations where, I'm like, well, why not just go ahead and do it? Just hit the button.
Just go for it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Not to quote Nike and their rapey sounding phrases, but Nike.
Oh, you mean Nike?
No, I mean Nike. Don't even.
It's another one.
You need to say Nike. That's all I'm saying. Anyway. So the point is, for me, the only thing that really stresses me out is when there's technical issues.
That gets me a lot too.
Yeah, but thankfully, you say that gets you a lot, but you're usually the one who fixes my technical issues.
It's different when it's not your own channel.
I get that.
It's completely different.
But like for me, the other day, we wanted to stream a game, and the sound would not come through the headset. It was coming just through the computer speakers.
Yeah.
And I only had a couple hours I could stream anyway because we had to go somewhere that night. And so, we couldn't figure out the problem right away. And so I ended up just not streaming.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I didn't want to stream. I would have totally gotten on there. I don't know if people would have liked it, but the honest truth was that technical issue was putting us back just enough time where that little bit of stress kicked in and said, is this really worth it? Right. Why don't you just chill for an hour and a half instead of streaming?
Yeah, but again, I think there is less of that pressure for you because it's not your primary source.
Oh yeah,
like you say, you use Patreon as a kind of avenue on Twitch, as a platform to do something for your patrons.
My YouTube channel, my streaming, a couple other things I do, are all to bring attention to my writing and bring attention to my name, my brand, if you will. So when I stream, if something really happens, I'll just tell my patrons, like, hey, we'll have to reschedule the stream. I'm very sorry. Yeah. No, I don't like doing that. And I do try to stay consistent. There's a lot of positives for streaming if you can stay consistent, if you can play, keep your style kind of similar. Interaction, stuff like that. And I try all those things when I do stream so that people do enjoy coming to my streams, and I will grow. I'm slowly, every time I stream, or every few times I stream, I get a couple of new follows. So, my YouTube channel gets a couple of new subscribers every time I put out a video.
Yeah.
or basically when I take 6 months off. It just depends.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to you though. Like it doesn't.
It's
really
not
affect
something
you.
I'm going to stress out over
Right.
if my YouTube channel doesn't grow.
Right.
Now, I will say it could be. It is a little bit stressful in the sense that I could be making more money or some money off of Twitch. I could be making some money off of YouTube if I put more time to it. But my primary focus, of course, is my writing.
Right.
And therefore, for me, streaming, I kind of have to mentally go, it's okay if this doesn't grow. It's okay if this languishes a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's not your primary focus. Now, if you want to talk about stresses, I can tell you about some of the stresses behind my articles.
I can imagine. Yeah, I've seen it.
Right, you have. But for streaming, I think a great example is like with you. You are more focused on your audience and whether or not they're having a good time.
Yeah.
And you are more focused less on making money and getting sponsors, but more on just making sure you're putting out a good product. You want to make sure that you're putting out content that they can enjoy and that they want to buy a t-shirt for charity, or they want to sponsor you, or they want to donate, or I know you have a Patreon that you don't ever talk about.
I don't at all. I just don't promote those things like Patreon, even like you say, the sponsorships, Super Chat, anything. I like to give people.
See, I forgot about Super Chat. You're right.
Yeah.
That's
another option.
I don't do YouTube gaming.
Yeah.
But I know you don't promote that stuff, and it's another way you could be making money. But you want to focus much more on the content first.
Sure. Yeah, and I want to make sure that it's something that's there for people when they're bored or if they're feeling down, and they've got just some silly person. And just doing their thing, doing something they enjoy doing.
I get that, and I think that's why. I'm not saying you specifically. I do think it's why you do it a little bit, whether you want to admit it or not. But I think a lot of people specifically do it because they want to do something nice. They want to. They want that. There's that feeling of providing content, and there's that feeling of being kind of the person who is giving everyone something to do, something to watch. For me, it was completely different. I just at one point realized I'm going to be playing these games no matter what.
Right.
I had a couple friends at the time who were like, "Oh, it'd be cool to see you play that game. We're not over enough." Or like I had a friend who doesn't live in the same town, and he was like, "It'd be cool to see you actually play through this game."
Yeah.
So I started streaming to hang out with my friends, but then I made more friends online, and so now. As much as I say it, part of the fun of streaming, even the annoying people who come in your stream, it's like going in and hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, I wish I could quote who I heard say this originally, but I've heard like several different people say it. That's why Twitch feels like I'm hanging out with my friends, in my room, and I'm watching the game, and they're trying to tell me how to beat it and help out.
Yep.
And we're playing through it, and that's a awesome feeling.
Definitely.
And if you can turn that into a job, amazing. But
exactly, so when I started, because I started out on Twitch streaming, and then when my uploads, my internet was horrible. When it got to a point where I just simply couldn't stream anymore, that's when I decided to make videos, because then I could take my time, but I could still do what I was enjoying doing, and try and capture and encompass that feeling that you're playing with friends. And it was to give people the opportunity who maybe didn't experience that when they were younger, because that's what I used to do like a lot when I was a teenager. It was we used to like pass the controller and help each other with certain like bosses or whatever. So that was something that I wanted to provide in any way possible. And as you say, if you can turn that hobby into an income, then that's what a lot of people try and do. Like writing for you. To turn that into a steadier income, and because you enjoy it, and writing can be a hobby, but it's also a source of income for you.
Yeah, sure.
So that's something that I think that's definitely a positive, is escapism for a viewer and even the streamer itself, because they can escape into the game. And it can help build them confidence because they're interacting with people from all over the world. And you know, it's all about community and helping each other. And you mentioned about like essentially what's called backseat gaming, which some people don't like that, and I totally understand, because it can get annoying, especially if you want to try it yourself and then you've got somebody piping up every 2 minutes saying, you need to do this, you need to do it this way. I totally understand why that's annoying, but at the same time, if you change your perspective and be like, oh, actually that's helpful, you know, even if you're not really like needing it or wanting it. There are pros and cons with playing a game, and I tend to play it safe and play games that I kind of know enough that I'm not going to make a complete fool of myself. But then when I do make a mistake, then I'm really hard on myself, and I'm like, and I feel like people are watching, and I guess some would be laughing, which they probably would be. You know, it's like, haha, you failed, kind of thing. You know, you died.
Well, it is really fun to watch you kill Lara Croft over and over again.
Oh, that happens a lot. That's a given, though, for me, anyway.
And that's a game you're supposed to be good at, so...
Yeah, no, I just enjoy it. I don't care if I make mistakes so much with that, because I enjoy it so much.
No, I agree, though. Like, when I first started, I was looking for games that I was good at. I would play certain fighting games, or I'd play Mega Man X, or play stuff that I knew I could beat. I knew I could do, and I knew I wouldn't have too much trouble with. I knew where all the secrets were, or, you know, enough to pass, right? Mm-hmm. But as I continued doing it, I realized I'm like, well, I don't want to keep playing the same games over and over again on stream. I actually really enjoy getting a new game and kind of experiencing it for the first time with, you know, my audience. And then, you know, some games, like, I just like sometimes going, oh, well, I'm going to hook my PS2 up to the Elgato, and we're going to play random things off the PS2, you know, or something like that. And so you get a lot of interesting stuff, and you do have to worry about that. You have to worry about not only you not knowing what to do and making yourself look bad, but then you got to think, you got somebody coming in, and to understand it from their perspective, they're probably coming in and going, oh, I really like this game. You know, like a lot of times on Twitch, you'll have people come in and say, oh, I saw that you were playing this and had to come in.
Right, yeah.
And so then, this game that they love and that they've probably beaten 100 times over,
like
you are
600
sucking
hours.
at.
Right,
You're
exactly.
just dying and not doing the buttons correctly, and the mechanics don't work for you.
It's frustrating.
It is.
I sometimes struggle with a game that I know, and I go in and watch someone, or like watch some of my favourite streamers that I regularly, you know, usually moderate for, but there are some times where they play a game and I'm like, I'm just itching, and I know they hate it, but I'm just itching to say, hey, you need to do this, like, this is how you solve this puzzle, and it is difficult. And I think that's why, like, myself as a streamer, I'm a little bit more lenient when it comes to how I deal with that situation where somebody comes in, especially if they love the game. So I'm a little bit more like, oh yeah, thanks for letting me know, or I'll be like, yeah, I know, I just need to actually do it.
So I was watching a streamer one time, and he had started playing a game, and that game was not super easy, but, you know, it was just something he had to learn, right? And so he's playing, and a guy comes into his stream and says, oh, I'm so glad to see you play this. I've been playing for a long time. I actually speedrun this game. And so, of course, he's sitting here sucking at this game, and this dude who speedruns it, knows it in and out, you know, has, like, not the world record, but one of the best times for it, is sitting in your chat. And, of course, the streamer, you could tell, and the streamer told me later, he's like, I wanted to quit the game right then.
Yeah. Because
that, you want to talk about stress, like that, you're like, this guy has dissected the game I'm playing, and I'm about to look horrible in front of him. But, you know, the person who was doing the speed run of the game, you know, was like, no, I want to see you actually play. It's like, that's how I find new things, or that's how I start to kind of rethink the game. And I thought it was very interesting. Yeah,
that's definitely an interesting perspective. What was the game, just out of curiosity?
Lisa.
Not heard.
It's an RPG. It's like a newer RPG.
Oh, okay. Now, we've mentioned a mixed bag of, you know, positives and negatives. Maybe not directly saying, hey, this is a positive, this is a negative, but they all kind of, like, tie in. I think when it comes to the pros and cons of, you know, streaming and being a streamer or a consumer, is that it's about even. Like, for example, we talked about anxiety and, you know, social anxiety, but streaming can also help build confidence.
Oh, sure.
So it's kind of like a lot of things are yin and yang, and it is about, I think, finding a balance between knowing what your limits are. One of the major issues with streaming, and this kind of goes along with pressure and the stress, health issues. You know, people push themselves really far, you know, like 24-hour streams, 72-hour streams. Dying
of blood clots from not standing up or
right,
not getting
exactly.
enough air.
Yeah, and not taking, you know, sufficient breaks. Substance abuse.
That's an extreme, but it happens. It's a thing.
Yeah, it happens, unfortunately. Sleep deprivation. I mean, our sleep schedule is funky as it is.
As someone who has plenty of problems with that, before we even bring streaming into the mix, like, there are people who have to be hurting themselves more with that.
Yeah. I think so. And you know, there's like the usual sort of things like diet and regular exercise, and you know, I'm not exactly the best for that. Like, I'm not a poster child for the best kind of balance of, you know, diet and sleep and all that kind of stuff.
Right, but it is important, and, you know, I've always been a proponent of take breaks during your stream. You were horrible about, I'm busting for a wee, and I can't take the time to go. Shut up, just go wee.
I know. I think there's the kind of feeling of obligated to provide.
They will understand if you want 5 minutes to yourself.
I know, but like I find it difficult to get that out of my head. But I think, and you mentioned like where money comes in, like with Patreon and Super Chat and stuff. I also think that some streamers feel obligated to provide. And they also feel obligated to provide information about their personal life, which I don't fully agree with. I can completely understand why they feel like that and they're in that position. But if something is happening in your personal life, I don't think just because somebody pays you money to stream games, I don't think that gives them the right or entitlement to know that part of your life.
Yeah. This goes. It's funny to me because this goes back to why you shouldn't backseat game. You know, it's just not polite. Or you ask someone, you know, like, hey, do you want to know how to beat this boss? Do you want to know what you're doing wrong? Do you want my help? And you know, it's the same thing when people start to feel kind of entitled to your life. You know, there's a courtesy, and to steal your joke from earlier, there's an etiquette to
there really is
interacting with someone who is a streamer.
Yeah. And
we've talked about this before, just you and I. But in reality, a lot of people aren't good at that. They're not, you know, and I'm not knocking anybody, but we've seen plenty of people between the two of us just come in and, you know, just start barking orders or saying things or, you know, whether they're trolling or whether they're just trying to be funny or whatever.
Yeah.
It gets to a point where you have to look at some people and say, hey, you need to stop this. This is not polite.
Yeah.
You know, and in the defense of most people who do that, a lot of them, if you tell them that, and if you're very straightforward with them, they're usually fine after that.
I think another thing that streamers kind of miss sometimes or forget is, like, if you get, like you say, if you get a troll in, sometimes it's good to just go with it. Especially if they're just like kind of like mild trolls, you know. Now, there's obviously limits, and it varies from channel to channel, from streamer to streamer, what your kind of tolerance level is. Like, my tolerance level is pretty low.
Yeah.
And, you know, that can be a blessing and a curse. And I think as long as you have the right kind of people around you to say, hey, you know, you probably shouldn't let this slide, or whatever. And that's like picking your moderators and, you know, making sure you have the right kind of message coming across as to how approachable you are and how much, making sure you don't take any crap, but at the same time that you're not so strict that it's not an enjoyable environment for anybody, whether they're a troll or not. Because you can convert trolls. Like, you can convert people.
And you have some people that you just have to learn when to pick your battles. Like, I have a lot less viewers than you. So I get the occasional, like, I have some dumb mother coming in about, my balls itch all the time. Right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you just, I get to the point where I say one comment or I ignore him and he stays in my stream for 10, 20 minutes and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And that's all he does.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't really care if this guy wants to come in and talk about how he's got crabs. None of the people who are sitting in on my stream should be bothered by that because I cuss a lot. I have a lot of content. I have a lot of content that I don't think, people would be surprised if someone came in and started talking about their genitalia, right? You, on the other hand, you get a lot more people, and you do maybe not as much as your stream, but you definitely have done a lot more family friendly or all ages kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you also get a lot more people that seem to come in and spam, or as a woman, you get a lot of people coming in saying, that they want to do things to you and show your tits.
Which again, I go with the trolls on that one.
And show birds, yeah.
I show them a pair of blue tits, and I'm like, I've got a cracking pair of tits for you to see, and I show them the blue-footed boobies as well. And that's now a running gag.
You get way too much enjoyment out of that.
I really do, but I just think it's funny. I think,
It is funny. It is.
And I think, I completely understand how a lot of female streamers, they see that every day, like almost constantly. I think a lot of them, and whether it's warranted or not, whatever, like, you do you. I think sometimes, like, you just, like I say, you just got to go with it. It's fun.
And we're not even doing, like, I just said, like, you have a lot more viewers than I do, but in comparison, we're not even talking about the people who deal with the real,
right?
Like, you're talking about, I remember I used to watch this World of Warcraft streamer. Great guy. His name's Swifty. People used to order food to his place all the time. Like, I don't remember how it happened, but he made a mistake and showed his outside of his house. And he knew to, not show his mailbox, and he knew not to show his car tag and all that stuff. And somebody still figured it out. They figured out, they're like, I've seen that house before. I know where it is.
Yep.
And they put his address online. So in several streams, they would order pizzas and send a pizza. He had to call and tell every local pizza place within, like, a certain radius, like, don't deliver to my house.
Yeah.
If you get a call, it's not me, I'll come and pick it up, something like that. So there's that.
Yeah.
And that's, like, still kind of fun trolling. And then when you get even higher, you get some of these, just real douchebags who will actually dox someone. Or there was that thing recently in the news with the 2 Call of Duty streamers who were swatting each other.
Yeah,
and one of them either gave, I can't remember if he gave the wrong address or if he gave a wrong address on purpose or whatever. But, somebody died. It wasn't even one of them. Not even the decency to be one of the 2 people perpetrating the crime. And that's not me saying I wish one of them had died. I wish nobody had died. But
it shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And this guy who did die had no clue what was going on, and there's a whole other conversation in that we're not getting into. But when you get to a certain level, you're gonna have more fans, and you're gonna have more people that like you, and you're gonna have more dedicated fans. But you're also gonna have bigger trolls, and you're gonna have more. You're gonna have more problems and more stresses. Like, you talk about stresses earlier. I can't imagine, trying to make everyone happy. Like, making everyone happy in real life is difficult enough. Right. Then you're trying to make everyone happy on the internet. You're trying to adjust your streaming times. You're trying to adjust what games you play. And there's a point where you just have to, as the person running the show, go, I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah. And that's what I try and do is, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, I was meaning to, about the, super chat and sponsors and stuff, and how I don't talk about it, I don't promote it, as strongly as a lot of channels because I like to give people the option. I like to have as many options open. And it's the same with what I stream. Like, I would be classed more as a variety streamer.
Sure.
Because I don't pigeonhole myself to one genre or one franchise or what have you.
Which I don't ever understand if people did. Like, I know there are people, you know a lot of people who are specifically streaming horror games or specifically streaming even one franchise. And I'm just like, there's no way.
But they're now branching out after just a few years of doing that. They're now branching out into new stuff, which I think is fantastic, because I think they're going to be a lot happier in themselves, and that's the main thing, which again a lot of streamers seem to forget, because again they feel like they're more obligated to please others than themselves. You can't provide a good stream if you're not happy with what you're doing. And you've got to know, as you say, where to draw the line with that. I
think one of the most important things I've learned from streaming is, and I can say this because I'm not making money off of it, but I'm here because I enjoy doing it. I'm here because I want to hang out with these people. And because of that, I have a lot of control and I have a lot of flexibility.
Right.
And I think the more fans you have and the more money you make and the more you depend on it, the you lose those things.
Yeah, and I also think that one of the major problems with YouTube and Twitch and that kind of thing is you get a lot of young entrepreneurs, because they're getting sort of like forced into fame, internet fame, where they have to deal with these situations.
2017 was unfortunately the year I had to learn who people like Jake Paul and Keemstar and Rice Gum. Is that,
I think.
I didn't know who these people were until like late 2016, early 2017, especially Jake Paul. I didn't know who he was.
I had no idea until last year.
And the thing is that, like you said, their whole lives are, out there, and you hear about them because they're young and they're rich now and they're acting out, and there's no. It was like the big deal when what was that kid's name that was a huge singer? He probably still is. He's Canadian.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah, Bieber. I couldn't remember his name. He had that incident where he couldn't get into the restroom of some bar they were at or restaurant, and so he just went into the back room and pissed, and that's a perfect example of really that branches into affluenza. People are so rich and feel like they're on top of the world, and thankfully, apparently it wasn't long after that he kind of came out and was like, okay, I realize I have a problem here, with doing this stuff, but for a lot of people, your whole life is splayed out for everyone to see.
Yeah.
I hate to bring him into it, but a really great example is you had the recent event with Dr. Disrespect, who had to, or he didn't have to, he chose before it hit to get ahead of a thing and say, hey, I was unfaithful and I'm taking some time off. And then you have someone like Boogie, who, because he has a lot of fans and people kept asking about it. And he posted a video about, discussing his divorce. I can't imagine. I just went through kind of a big shakeup in my family, and I can't imagine if I had fans, people I didn't really know, coming up and asking me questions about this and wanting an answer and wanting a video on it. Yeah. Can you imagine that? That would be horrible.
That's what I mean, and that's why, again, feeling obligated to share that part of your life, I don't, that's one thing I don't agree with. And again, I think, younger entrepreneurs in the field, they're kind of forced into that position where they don't really know how to handle that kind of thing. And I think it can be kind of dangerous.
Oh, sure.
You mentioned swatting before, but it can be dangerous on a person's mental health too.
When I started writing more, when I started actually getting published pieces, and I accepted. I knew that there was a level of notoriety that was going to come with this if I did anything worthwhile. And it's not nearly the level that we've been talking about, like the people we just mentioned. But I understood that I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
I do not tell people stuff. I constantly hear people talking, and I'm like, why are you giving away all this information? Why are you telling them this? So for me, it took a little bit to go, okay, I'm willing to step into this little bit of the light.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine doing what they do and being able, to... I'm not talking about, like, not being able to walk down the street. I'm just talking about people being that into your business, just people researching you and asking questions. And here, like, can you imagine if, somebody heard me correct you on something in the podcast and immediately assumed, like, oh, well, they're having problems. They're,
right.
they're...
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a little too much for me. That's when this would no longer be a hobby. It would really not even be a job. It'd almost just not be worth it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And, it's... On the one hand, I just want to say it's not their business. On the flip side, though, as I mentioned, yin and yang, right?
Right.
Also, I think some people, like viewers especially, do not realise just how important they are in the community. Like, they come in and, they'll say hi or whatever.
Your regulars, your people who really, really do support you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Whether it's like, they're a sponsor or they're a subscriber, whether they, donate to you regularly, like super chat or give you tips or whatever, at the end of the day, they are vital to these people's lives. If it wasn't for that person, if it wasn't for the viewer, showing that support in any way, shape or form, you wouldn't be in that position. And I guess that's why some viewers maybe feel like they are entitled to bark orders and to be that close into your business.
Right.
But I think there is more of a positive to that.
It's a balance, and there is more of a positive. I've definitely had way more regulars that are super supportive and want to help and stuff like that. But I see why some of it happens, and a lot of times it goes back to what you said. A lot of this is young kids not realizing what they're saying, what they're asking.
Yeah.
A lot of the people who become famous or get a little bit of that fame at such a young age, they don't realize how much they're agreeing to on the flip side of all that, and how much is changing them. But going back to viewers, again, the positive there does outweigh the negative.
For sure, I think so, and that is something that I think a lot of people take for granted as a streamer and a viewer. I think the whole process, the whole thing, I think we all take for granted, and we don't realise just how good of a platform you can do incredible things like charity streams and channels, like the Ogscast every December. Throughout the whole of December they do Jingle Jam, and they are partnered with like Humble Bundle, and 100% of the profits from their bundle go to charity.
Or like AGDQ doing Doctors Without Borders, and Pet Country's NES Marathon. They support like the Children's Hospital or something like that. There's a lot. Yeah.
There is a lot, and there is a lot more. Other channels and stuff that do the same. That do incredible things. And again, that wouldn't be possible without the community. That wouldn't be possible without you, me, any other viewer supporting those channels and those streams.
Yeah.
So
and the people who are willing to, who see that this is a good cause and willing to open up their wallets, to donate a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think streaming is a new form of media, and it's just it is increasing and growing. And I think if you are going to consider becoming a streamer, you do need to think about the pros and cons to it and what exactly it's going to mean for you and whether you can actually do it. That's the thing. There's a lot to consider. There's a lot to take into consideration.
You see how like places like Facebook and stuff are getting into streaming, and like I think this is going to be around for a while. It's just the format's going to change and the platform might change.
Right, yeah. There are different platforms and that are available, and it just depends on what suits you and your personality, I think.
Who's the one streamer you really want to see succeed more in 2018?
Ooh.
I'll go ahead and tell you mine.
Okay.
Mine's going to be the Dolly Popka. I want to see him succeed more. He's been streaming a lot more. He got his affiliate. He's wanting to do.
Congrats.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the description to his Twitch. But I would like to see him succeed.
You will,
more
or I will.
One of us will.
I will put all the streamers and channels that we've mentioned.
I know how to link. Thank you.
I'll put it in the description. Yeah, but you don't have management control, so you can't you can't change anything.
Who is you still haven't answered.
Oh, there's so many. Seriously, this is so hard. I hate narrowing it down to just one person.
You know, this doesn't mean that you don't support the others. I'm just saying.
No,
it's
I know,
just
but
I
don't want it to seem like it's favoritism.
This isn't favoritism. I'm making you pick one.
I'm going to say Albert F. and Wesker.
Okay.
Just because I know that this year he's going to change up his content. He was one of those that we mentioned that kind of like pigeonholed himself to Resident Evil and survival horror streams. I really enjoy his streams, whatever he plays, and he's also a really good Resident Evil streamer and player. I think that's a good place to end it there. I want to know what you think about streaming, whether you stream yourself or whether you're just a consumer, whether you just view other streamers. What do you like about streams? What don't you like? Do you watch like the same type of people that play the same kind of games, or do you watch, you know, different streamers? I want to know what you think about that.
So where can they watch you stream?
You can watch me stream. I multi-stream both on Twitch and YouTube Gaming.
But Twitch is better, we know that.
That's personal preference. That's another thing with what platform, personal preference.
Twitch.
But my Twitch is just twitch.tv/Geeketiquette, and my YouTube Gaming or YouTube is Geeketiquette Game. There'll be links in the description because that's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah, and you can find me streaming on Twitch because it's the better platform. Under Serenity's Bane, and she'll link that. Plus, I do have a YouTube, and I don't stream on there, but you should go watch videos on there. And but really, just follow me on Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter, his Patreon as well, if you would like to become a patron and make him play games on Twitch.
And her Patreon as well, if she'll ever take the time to advertise it.
There'll be a link in the description, but it's just an option. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your side of things and your opinions on the subject of streamers. So thanks again, and take care.